Welcome to Commissioners Court. It's 9 o'clock and we'll get started. Let's begin with a prayer, a pledge of allegiance, and we'll get down to business. Dear Heavenly Father, we just praise you for this beautiful, cold, crisp day. We just thank you for the celebration that we had here on the square and for the many people that it brought out and just the positive things happening in our community. We ask that you would preside over our meeting today, guide and direct each topic, that we would achieve the objectives and the methods that are according to your will. We ask, Lord, that you would be with Betty Walker's family today as they grieve her loss, and that you would bless all those in attendance at that funeral today. Once again, we thank you. We thank you for our servicemen and women serving all over this world. Please protect them, Lord, and bless our community. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to December 8th Commissioners Court meeting, our first meeting of the month. It is just after 9 o'clock, and the meeting has been appropriately posted, and we'll begin with item number 1, public comments or requests for information on non-agenda items in accordance with Section 551.042 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. I have 2 requests to speak. They are going to specifically address individual agenda items, and so I will call upon you when those times come up. Anyone else have a public comment, generally speaking? All right, we'll move on to item number 2. Consider and possibly approve minutes from our November 24th meeting. That was our second meeting of the month, Special Commissioners Court from November.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton, second by Commissioner Hockaday. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Joyce, for handling those.
Could I still can't get the minutes off of the computer. Are you aware of it, Joyce?
Last week.
They did? Okay.
You couldn't get any of the minutes at all?
Not for the last 2 or 3 meetings.
But they did figure it out, and it's working now. Okay, good. I was not aware of that. Item number 3. I don't see Judge Woodson in the audience. I'm going to postpone that for a moment. We're waiting on Judge Woodson to come and address the court on item number 3. Item number 4, status report for the pass-through projects. I don't have a formal report today. There was not enough information to present to warrant a formal report. We will have one from PTP at our next meeting. We did get the intersections at 2348, 1735. Is that right? 1735 completed. The striping is done.
Supposed to do the striping the 10th.
The 10th?
That's what they said Wednesday. They were going to.
Well, I asked Mark this morning if they finished it, and he said yes, but that's not accurate.
Well, all thing I know is what they said Wednesday morning, that they would do it the 10th.
Okay.
That's when they had the stripers coming.
Okay.
They haven't done 2348. They hadn't put the hot mix on it because they had 2 soft spots, and they had to go back and put concrete in those spots and redo them. And they were supposed to have done that Friday.
Okay.
I haven't been by there, so I don't know if they did on Friday or not.
All right. Well, I talked to him 30 minutes ago, and he said that they were complete. So if that's a misstatement, I apologize.
They might have got ahead of themselves. I don't know.
The updated projections from James Construction indicates they anticipate being here through January 17th, wrapping up everything prior to May's seal coat. PTP thinks that it will take them longer than that, so we shall see. At least through mid-January, they will be here continuing to do as much as they can. They will probably not put the signs up just to avoid any unnecessary damage to those signs over the winter. They're not going to do us any good over the winter, and they won't take that long to install them. So more than likely, that will be knocked off of the list of things to do before they come back in May.
There's one more thing on that, Judge, that they've asked, I know they've asked the sheriff to patrol that out there. During the holidays, during Thanksgiving holidays, had lots of four-wheelers and pickup trucks going down under the bridge and on the road up there tearing it up. And they asked to maybe to patrol that a little more often. Those four-wheelers tearing up down on the bridges and down in the ditches.
Yeah, winter's tough enough without having the human element in there. Thank you for the extra watch care you've given that out there. Item number 5, and I think I will go ahead and get into this. Today we have with us Walt Sears. Walt is the general manager of the Northeast Texas Municipal Water District, and this item number 5 and item number 7 go together. I kind of got them split up there with an unrelated item, but 5 and 7 go together. I know there are some that are here interested in what's going on with this subdivision and plat regulation. This you will understand more after you hear Walt. So Walt, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you'll come up here to our podium, explain the objective that you have, explain why Titus County is needed, and explain what this has to do with possibly adopting a subdivision ordinance or some specific subdivision regulations.
Okay, good morning, Judge, and thank you for letting me be here this morning for the Commissioners Court. I appreciate the time that y'all will spend helping on this project. As you know, my district started in 1953. We're in 8 counties. We have customers in each of those 8 counties. Luminant and SWEPCO were 2 of those customers in Titus County. The goal of the district is to promote growth. We want to use water as a way to help our cities, our communities, and our industries. About a year or so ago, we began working on a water project. So today, what I want to explain to you is the water project that we've developed and ask for your help in making that project a reality. The county that inquired first about this was Morris County. Morris County sees Interstate 30 and Highway 259 intersection as a place where commercial development could occur if there was adequate infrastructure. There's good roads there. There's good reason to believe that that area should be developed. So we got the water developers together and we said, who can provide the water to that intersection at the lowest price? After we had a couple of meetings, Tri-Sud was identified as the entity that was best suited to do that. Tri-Sud is headquartered here in Mount Pleasant. They buy their water from the city of Mount Pleasant. The city of Mount Pleasant receives this water from Lake Bob Sandlin. They treat it to drinking water standards, and then it goes into the distribution lines of Tri-Sud. Tri-Sud has spent some engineering to determine whether it's capable of doing that or not, and the answer is yes. The cost of this project is about $1.3 million. It has 2 pieces of this project. One piece is residential. That is, would run the water line down Highway 71 from Titus County or through Titus County into Morris County. And so there would be citizens in both of those counties that would benefit by having a water line closer to them. At the end of the line would be where you would find the commercial development. As we explored this project, what we realized is that some of this area is economically challenged, meaning that they need as much assistance as we can provide them. So we went to the state agency, the Texas Water Development Board. They've been in the news recently, and you know that they are a primary provider of dollars for water infrastructure. One of their funds is for economically distressed areas. And this morning, what I wanted to do is pass out a little flyer about that program. Is it okay if I approach the... Sure.
How many copies do you have, Walt?
I have about 10, I think, so I intended on providing to each of the commissioners plus the newspaper. And then if there's additional copies, we certainly get them. Now, what this program is known by is an acronym, EDAP, and it's for Economically Distressed Areas Program. This program, while it was envisioned to be useful in the southern part of this state, it's also useful in northeast Texas. And one of the features of this program is they allow them to have half of it for grant, meaning that the citizens, if they qualify, half of the cost of this is provided by the state. The other half is provided by a low-interest loan that is frequently below the market rate of interest, meaning that that portion that there is payment that has to be made is as affordable as they can make it. And with this project having two pieces, the Texas Water Development Board will not fund the entire project. What they will fund is that portion of the project that's attributable to the low-income areas. That portion that is commercial has to be found, that money has to be found from either another program or from the commercial development that will be taking place. So this is a dual project. Now, to qualify for the program, the economically distressed program, there are certain things that the applicant has to do. The applicant in this case could be TriSub because they are a political subdivision, just like the counties are, just like the water district that I work for is. But as we go through the checklist of what we have to do, there's certain things that motivate the state to participate. One of them is let's not have any bad areas where the septic systems aren't adequate for the houses. And I appreciate what Tim and the Sheriff's Office does for the OSSF program, because in this county, the OSSF program, that stands for On-Site Septic Facilities, is being adequately managed. So we can check that one off the list, just like in Morris County. In that county, the Commissioners Court have delegated to this water district the responsibility of doing those tasks. So collectively, we're working together to do that, and we can check that box. But one box that we haven't yet been able to check is that box that has to do with what you see in that handout on the second page. On the second page, you see the applicant has to promise that in the future there will not be substandard developments. And substandard meaning those developments that lack the basic, what we would call necessities. Necessities like electricity, roads, water, a way of properly disposing of the sewage. So in that list, we have to try to assure them in writing that that will occur. The reason why Titus County is involved is that Titus County's the source of where the water comes from. Some of the project is located in Titus County, and some of the projects located in Morris County. Now, in the Morris County Commissioner's Court case, Commissioner's case, they looked at these promises that were necessary. They evaluated them, and we came up with rules that work for Morris County. And we sent them to the Water Development Board, and the Water Development Board said that those were okay for the minimum standards. And so Morris County is complete. So this morning I'm asking for you to think about working with the water districts to see whether a minimum standard can be developed for Titus County. In your packet, what was given out was those minimum standards that we developed for Morris County. And I would describe them as standards that are fairly benign if you intend on adequate subdivisions. Now, if you are in southern United States and you want to see how many people you can put per square inch on a piece of property, perhaps that it does accomplish that as far as prohibiting a substandard development. Now, the path forward here would be, if you're interested in helping, to let us work on whether these minimum standards are adequate enough. And I'm not sure in Titus County who all you would want to include in that conversation to make sure that all of the minimum things are covered. I can tell you that your handout could be a starting point for that, because I know for sure that particular set is adequate. The Water Development Board will give you a out-of-the-box set if you want to look at it. I'm going to say the one I provided to you was the result of what the commissioners and the judge in Morris County wanted. So it could be that what Morris commissioners and judge determined is adequate for Titus County, or it could be that you want something more. But I wanted this morning to start the conversation by saying we have a water project, we have people of limited financial means that the state might be willing to help if we jump through the hoops. And I am saying that as a commissioner's court, you have the ability to either enable or disable that lending possibility. Someone could say, well, why isn't there a water line out there already? Well, the answer is water lines go where people can afford to put them. And in the past, we haven't been able to afford to put a water line down Highway 71. But with the state's help, we may have a possibility here. So that's basically the information I wanted to start with, and I want to answer any questions that you might have about this water project, or how the city or the county or anyone that's important to you, how they might be involved or how it might affect them. So I'll stop there and ask if any of you have any questions about this water project.
Are these regulations that y'all passed out, or the rules and regulations for subdivision, are these ones that Morris County passed?
Those are the ones that Morris County did, yes, sir. And I don't know how much in the nuts and bolts you want to get into that, but, basically, those subdivisions, when they start, you want to make sure that they connect in county rural to county roads that are adequate, and that they don't damage the county roads in the process of putting in the subdivision. You want to make sure that that each one of the lots that are in there have the ability to have an adequate septic system, because in this county, the primary way that we efficiently manage our sewage is to have an individual system. If you live in the city, when you flush the toilet, it goes to a water treatment plant, and it's centralized, and city employees take care of that. But out in the country, everybody has their own systems, and we want to make sure that you don't put lots that are 50 feet by 50 feet, because you might can get a trailer house on there, but you can't get a functional system there. So that's the reason why, and many of these things that are in that subdivision thing, you've already begun to address them on some level. For purposes of sewage, you've already addressed them. So I would just characterize these things as mostly setting to pin what is your practice already. But And that's the reason why I wanted to have some amount of time. And, you know, we've been working on this project for more than a year. Engineers have worked on the project. We are still in the planning phases of how big the line should be. If the line is too large, the water will get stale before it's used. If it's too small, there won't be enough water to go around. And not knowing exactly what the industry is that's at the end of the line, we're somewhat limited until we have a better understanding of what that industries are going to be at the end of the line. So we have plenty of time to make sure that these things on paper are what you want. Now, obviously, with anything you pass, you can modify. I'm going to say that y'all aren't the first county to have considered these. Every county that gets money from EDAP, every city that's in a county has to go through this same process. So it may seem new to Titus County, but for the district, it's not. We have other counties besides Morris that have already gone through this process. So if you're asking why does the district I work for care if we're not the ones making the water, we're not the ones treating the water, we're not the ones delivering it, and we have no direct stake, it's out of our function of we need to try to promote healthy growth in Northeast Texas. And some of that healthy growth needs to be in county rural. It can't all be in the cities. So some of our customers are in county rural. And so we appreciate that the Morris County judge and commissioners asked for us to engage and see what we could do to help. And that's as we are trying to find the best source of funds. We came across EDAP, and most of the checklist we can check off today, but the one that is still a snag is we have to have something in writing that basically fulfills that second page. It says we won't have substandard development in Titus County. And I know that if I ask you generally, and if I ask everyone who lives in Titus County, no one wants substandard development. So the trick is not in the big picture, because I think we all agree on that. The trick is making sure that the words that we use are something that's not a hardship to anybody.
We've already got a lot of these roads that's in here, the roads and the sewer and the width of the lots, and those things we've already passed through Commissioner's Court. But it's good to have it all in that one seal.
And that's what the Water Development Board wanted. They wanted something crisp and easy to just say, here's the piece of paper for the checklist, as opposed to what y'all have to do every single day, which is manage the county's affairs more particular than that. You have to. I appreciate the job that y'all do.
What's the history on this document? As I understand, it was somebody had drafted it prior to Morris County accepting it. How many other counties that you know of have adopted this?
A lot of counties, when asked, they just adopt what Water Development Board sends them. But Morris County took that document and edited it, if you want to use that word, to fit what their needs were. And then we had to send that edited version to the Water Development Board and get their blessing. The lawyer there, Joe Reynolds, did give his blessing to the Morris County version. But that's not the only version that I could ask Joe to approve or consider. There are other versions, but not knowing exactly what you'd want, I started with the premise of those things that were important to the Morris County Commissioners and Judge would be important here too. So, if you envision that there are dozens of counties where this program applies in the state of Texas, you're not going to have a single one-size-fits-all set of regulations. What you're going to have is those regulations that at a minimum the Water Development Board can say okay to, and then practically that y'all can support and be happy with. And as far as I can tell, there is nothing inconsistent with what Morris County adopted with what y'all have already set out for your OSSF programs and others, because that was a concern a few months ago that I was doing for Morris County. I was looking at those things to make sure that the OSSF program that are very similar to what happens in Titus County, Morris County, are functional. So these rules, these minimum rules, I guess I'm saying we have some latitude to adjust them, but we can't just wholesale change them or avoid them. If we wholesale change them or avoid them, then the Water Development Board will say, well, y'all aren't really making a real promise about avoiding substandard development, because the idea behind the money is let's not make the situations worse. And so from a policy standpoint, what they're trying to say is let's not encourage any further subdivisions that are substandard. So that's the objective we're trying to achieve with this piece of paper, is make sure they know that we do mean it when we say we're not going to let a substandard subdivision happen.
In a substandard subdivision could occur once you bring water to an area that right now is uninhabitable. And they're saying if we bring you water there, we want to know it's going to be used prudently in an appropriate subdivision, and you're not going to bring in, work camps or whatever it is here that are going to overpower not only the community, but overpower the water that you brought to that
That's right,
area.
and that's because this is a cooperative thing. Roads are part of that, and y'all are intimately familiar with that. You don't want to have too much traffic for your county roads. So when you start developing, you want to address all of the infrastructure, not just the water. So I can make provision and say, yeah, we'll build and we'll make sure water's okay. But the Water Development Board, from a policy standpoint, says if we're going to give you money, we want to make sure all those other things are there for that the citizens are going to want. And so water's one of the first things, but getting to work, that's another one of those things. Getting to the hospital if you need to, that's another part of it. So all of that infrastructure works together, and you're right. Their pledge is if we're going to give you money for water infrastructure, make sure we're not creating a problem there.
Is the version that Morris County ended up with, did they make it less restrictive, more restrictive than what they started with?
I would describe that as not more or less, just different, and meaning that the minimum standards, they didn't impede the minimum, but there were those things that they wanted, and I don't recall in specifics right this moment what the variations were, but I would describe it as they're slightly different than what was out of the box.
These standards here are pretty much what we've already got.
Yes, sir.
Right down.
That's exactly right. I don't want to say it's semantics, because if 5 or 10 years from now we discover something that is in that piece of paper that y'all want to adjust, well, we want to retain the ability to do that. So I'm going to say that as far as I know, these things are adequate, but I'll concede no piece of paper is ever perfect.
Did you have any public comment there in the Morris County project that you could tell citizens, whatever their line of work was, were upset or bothered or concerned that this document was going to create some problems?
No.
I mean, I've got some concerned realtors that obviously they see regulations and they worry that this could be too restrictive and would, inhibit development, and we certainly want to give them a chance to look this over and to ask any questions. And I don't know if they're prepared to ask those questions. I've got one that would like to make a comment, I know, and we'll give them a chance to ask any other questions, and I'll distribute this to anyone that wants it. But Do you recall any public comment coming up?
No, I don't recall any significant issues there, but I do want to say that's the reason why we're approaching this from a perspective of, let's look at what we have, see if there's anything that we want to adjust, and if there's something that we want to adjust, then go ask Joe from the Water Development Board whether that's something that they can live with. And I guess I'm saying if our perspective was we want no rules, that would be a problem. But if we're willing to say we're going to live by reasonable rules, then we have a lot of latitude to adjust the words that are in that document.
First thing hits my mind is Morris County, 25930, for example. We built a Hampton Inn down there, get all this done. The taxes that the county is going to get is going to be Morris County.
The property taxes is right, but now think about the water sales, because the water sales would be resident to Titus County, and the treatment of that water, because it comes from Mount Pleasant would derive some benefit from having the water sales there. So it's a shared thing, and from Morris County standpoint, there is adequate water in Lake of the Pines, and we could go northward on 259. The problem with that is that if we move the water line basically down 259 from south to north from Lake of the Pines, it's more expensive than 1.3. And then the casualties of that conversation are those low-income citizens that live west of Highway 259 in both Morris and Titus County. And this enables Tri-Sud to move their water further further eastward in Titus County.
Surely when they finish Marvin Nichols, it's going to be right there by it.
Well, reasonable people are going to differ on whether that project happens. That's a big project if it happens. That's decades away if it happens, and the kind of development that we're anticipating at 259 and Interstate 30 is probably not what you would see in Mount Pleasant. It's transportation centers like what you might see in Franklin County with Lowe's or a convenience store. Until we know what that water usage is, we don't know the size, and we don't know just exactly what the impact will be. But I'll concede to you that commercial portion of that project, Morris County does get a benefit from that. So that's the reason why more than a year ago, what I said was, well, this is going to take cooperation, and the cooperation is going to have to involve more than one county, more than one city, more than one water district. So, it's easier for me to see the bigger picture because my district is in 8 counties. So if one county is helped directly, indirectly, it helps the other. So for me, I try to work off of it in a cooperative spirit. And I guess I'm saying I agree with you that this project benefits both counties, but that's the reason why in your handout I described it as the Morris County project, is because I perceive it as, if you're saying who's going to get a bigger shot in the arm if this project happens, I'll concede that's Morris County is going to get a bigger shot. But by way of an example, when this district helped get SWEPCO to construct their power plant in the southern portion of Titus County, while it directly helped Titus County, it indirectly helped Morris County. So it may be that y'all are contiguous and we have our own senses about that, but I do want to say that cooperation has worked in the past. I think this is a opportunity to make it work in the future. Yes, sir.
I didn't see anything here. You're not asking Titus County to put any money into this project.
No, that's right. That's right. No money. No
You
money.
just want us to adopt a set of policies that makes it work.
That's right. The minimum, whatever it takes to make the minimum promises.
This substandard development, is there, what about existing substandard development? What happens to it?
I hope that we deal with those subdivisions, one subdivision at a time. And I will say that the more severe substandards are along the Rio Grande. So I'll concede that if you say where is Texas most apt to spend more of their energy, it's been down in those southern counties. But if you're asking where else in Titus County, the opportunity exists to try to use this program for other places. But, you know, I think that's a question best asked to Tri-Sud, because Tri-Sud is the primary server of water in rural Titus County. And I'm not familiar with Tri-Sud enough to say whether they see other problem areas. And I don't want to describe Highway 71 as a problem area. I should retract that and say it's just an opportunity to make things better up there. Right now, many of them are on domestic wells, meaning that their source of water is as good as what can be naturally provided to them. And those that drink the water in Mount Pleasant know that water's pretty good. That's pretty good standard water.
Final question. What happens to sewer?
The sewer stays just like it is. This project will not impact the sewage. The way that works is those homes have their individual systems and they'll continue to use them. At the end of the line, the industry will have to have a suitable way to dispose of their sewage, and that again will have to be according to what the state regulator is TCEQ.
What just meant that train gets
Okay,
on a hard
I will.
time hearing you and train too here.
The question was about TCEQ, and that stands for Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. They regulate the sewage in this state, and they do that by either a commercial activity, they'll do it regionally, or if it's a residential facility, that's what the OSSF program is. So the OSSF program would remain unchanged in both Morris County and Titus County as a result of this. But what would change is where those citizens receive water. Instead of relying only on a private domestic well, they'd be having the opportunity to connect to the water line that would be hopefully in their front yard. Any other questions?
I do have an individual that would like to make public comment. Judy, you've asked to speak. If you'd like to address or ask commissioners or Mr. Sears any questions.
First off, what I would like to say is that I don't even think this is on, is it?
Yeah, it's on.
It is? Okay. First off, I would like to say that extending a water line is always a good thing, and extending ours across Titus County is a good thing. But Morris County is a depressed market. Morris County doesn't have the income that we have here in Titus County, and what they do is okay. Whatever they can achieve and what they can do is fine. I don't think that we should be changing what we do to help them do whatever they're going to do and let them draw up the guidelines for us. We have guidelines for subdivisions, and they work. We don't have substandard subdivisions that I know of anywhere around. All I know is we all, the realtors, work with people who want to come in here and do developments. And there is nothing crisp and easy about these 16 pages. And we already have guidelines. My question is, why can't we give them a copy of our guidelines and see if they will meet their requirements? And I see no problem with that. We've got good guidelines and we have good developments here in our county. And I don't think we need to do anything that deters from future developments or causes it harder for people to have developments. These are not crisp and easy. They're very detailed and very confusing and cause a lot of work. I think what we have is working for us. I see no reason why we can't print it up and give it to them and say, this is what works for us, will it work for you? But I don't think they need to be drawing up 16 pages and handing them to us and telling us that this is what y'all need to use in the future. It's not going to make things easier and better for people who want to do developments. I think the water line's a great idea. And I think if you could help Morris County, that's a great idea. But they don't need to be setting down the guidelines for us when we have working guidelines. And we don't have substandard subdivisions. Don't know of any. Haven't had any problems with that. So why ask for this when we're not encountering that already?
I guess the only way I can answer it is based on what Mr. Sears told us, and Morris County is not making any demands of us. They've come to us about as humble as they possibly can.
I understand that, but they don't need to be setting out guidelines for us that we should adopt. We've got guidelines that work.
Nobody said that we had to adopt this. We want to achieve the minimum standards. Mr. Sears simply brought this to us to say, here is a suggestion.
I'm just giving my opinion.
Could you tell us a couple of examples of problem areas that you see in this document?
I didn't look at it with that in mind. I just looked at it that there was an awful lot of requirements that we don't already
Do you
have.
see anything in particular
Well, I'll
that
have
you
to sit and
believe?
look at it that way. But
Would you
what's
be
wrong
willing-
with what
would-
we've got, Brian? Why let big government come in here and give us more restrictions and make things more difficult for us when what we've got is working?
Well, my response to that is, I absolutely don't want to make things more difficult. If we can follow a pattern that achieves the objectives that will help our neighbor that goodness knows needs all the help they can
That's
get.
what I'm saying.
And if we can achieve that by making some tweaks to what we've got that don't negatively impact our folks, I'm going to keep an open mind. Now, I admit to you, I haven't read this real carefully yet, and I don't think like a realtor, but that's why I'm here, and that's why I made a copy available to you on Friday, and I want you to distribute that to everybody in this town that you think might have some reservations about this document and be able to share with us what those reservations might be.
Okay, so then could we also have a copy of what we give for subdivisions so we could compare the two? And why
Sure.
can't we give what we already use to them and see if they meet their their minimum qualifications? I think they will. I think
Okay.
what we're doing is great.
So as of yet, you're not aware of one single word in here that would make...
I didn't read it with that
Okay.
in mind. I just read
Would you
over
be
it to
willing
see
to
what
do
they
that?
were asking.
Would you be willing to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
But I would also like a copy of what we now
Done.
have. Okay.
Judge, I also volunteer that if you have the guidelines, they just didn't exist with the formality of being approved formally, singularly by this Commissioners Court. And I'll pledge that if the people here have guidelines that they would like to use, we can incorporate those into the document, and they can be the sum of the document. And I'll promise to send them to TWDB to see if what you do have is adequate enough. And it could be just one of condensing down the guidelines into something formal.
Could be.
And having y'all formally give the okay. So I guess I'll be sure to give you my card before I get out of here. And those guidelines, I'll be happy to pursue whether the existing guidelines with y'all's blessing and formality is adequate. So I wanted to offer that.
What I've seen is a composition of decisions that have been made over the years. I'll make you a copy. I'll make a copy available to Ms. Kent and anybody else that wants to see that. And for all I know, what we have in effect is more restrictive than this. I just honestly don't know.
Okay, well,
But I would sure like for us to figure out a way to help Morris County. I don't think there's anybody in this room that wouldn't like to see that achieved, but you do understand, and I understand that anytime you throw more regulations on somebody, it does make people, you know, somewhat hesitant, and we want to be sure that we're not creating any problems here. And so we have a job to do now. The commissioners need to read this document. We need to compare it to what we've got. The realtors need to read this document and see if they see anything in there that they can't live with, we need a change, we need a reword, or whatever.
I just appreciate beginning this dialogue, so thank y'all for your time.
Thank you. Commissioner Riddle may have a question.
I agree, I don't mind helping our neighbor, but by us doing this, if a guy's gonna put a subdivision or something in Titus County, he might decide to go to Morris County. After all, they got a lot lower taxes than we have. So they might decide to go there. I mean, would we be hurting ourselves? Titus County development. We want to develop Titus County first.
I'm missing your point. I'm sorry.
Well, okay, I'm the ABC company. I'm going to build a Hampton Inn. I think I'll build it in Morris County. My taxes would be lower, and I can develop there. The development's the same. It's going to cost me the same. I'm going to have water and sewer there. He might build that thing in Mount Pleasant or closer to Mount Pleasant instead of going to Morris County. I mean, would it hurt us is the question. Would it hurt Titus County?
Would it hurt us to help
Would it hurt
Morris
our
County?
development in Titus County? Would a person opt to leave Titus County and do it in Morris County or Franklin County?
If we helped Morris County, in other words, might we do a disservice to ourselves by helping our neighbor?
Yes, on this situation, by helping with
Wow,
that.
I've never thought of making decisions that way.
Their tax rate's not high, their tax rate's higher than ours, is it not?
I'm sorry, what?
You said they'd have lower taxes, their tax rate's higher than ours.
I don't know, but anyway,
It is.
it could be. I mean, it's just the fact that, would it hurt us?
You can't do it on the tax rate.
The question, would it hurt the development in Titus County? Would it go somewhere else?
Well, if somebody came to town and looked at the two and Morris County won out, I guess you could say, yeah, that was a bad deal for us. But I use as an example the Lowe's distribution center and how hard we worked to get that facility here. And when it came right down to it, we had so many things that were just right for that project. But when push came to shove, we had the money, but we didn't have the location. Mount Vernon had the location, but didn't have the money. This community put up $1 million to get the Lowe's distribution center where it is today. Now, to me, helping my neighbor is ultimately helping myself, so I'm not too concerned about that. But yeah, if we make that intersection at 259 and I-30 more desirable, would somebody possibly go there that might come to one of our corners? I guess that's a possibility, but I'm not going to let that affect my decision on this. I would like to see Morris County get some business.
Well, I've read through these regulations, they're not a whole lot, they're more explanatory than what we've got. They're a whole lot, it's the same thing we've already got. It's got more steps to them than I do, so why would be a problem?
My realtor friends here, you've heard the discussion. If you need a copy and don't already have it, I'll be glad to get you one. I want every realtor in this town to be able to take a look at that and help us understand what we might be doing that we don't want to do, so that there's so that we don't make a mistake here. But again, just my cursory review, it all seemed pretty much like some clarification of some definitions as opposed to, oh my gosh, we can't live with this. But that's where I want your help. So I'll scan you a copy. I'll send it to anybody that you would like.
Judge, I agree with exactly what you're saying here. You can look at Lowe's. We helped, this community helped with $1 million, but over half their employees that work at that company live in Titus County, and a lot of the other people live in surrounding counties that work there shop in Titus County. So it's a two-way street here. This is a little bit more detailed, but again, I would like to take time and look at this, and I've got some people I want to talk to about this and just get their input from it. But I think anytime we help a neighboring county, it's going to be a plus for us. And they'll be there at some point in time. We may need their help. What happened with Lowe's up here is we could not get a place prepared to have that company built here. And so we decided to help the next county, would be Franklin County. The next place, I think it was going to Tyler. So we would have lost out altogether if we had not worked together as a community and as counties that are close together. So I just think we need to talk to people, look at things, see how it goes. I do know that the rules we have set up right now, we have some areas that they don't want a county road in there. They want it to be a private road. And we tell them, we don't have any control over that, but we tell them that that road doesn't meet county specs. We're not going to take that road in the future. I've already had some people ask me about us taking the road over, and I said, we can't take the road over because you didn't build it to our specs. So, that's the things you have to look at. Sir?
They can go back and redo the road.
Yes, they can go back and redo it and bring it up to standard. But, they need, when you put in a subdivision, you need to put a good road because it'll sell itself. Realtors know that. You got good roads in there and water and electricity, it's going to sell itself. You won't have to sell it. But I would like to look over this and at some point in time over both of them, what we have from you, and go back and look over ours, see if we have skipped anything.
And I'll have our environmental officer take a look at it and see if he makes sure that he's okay, that we're not lowering the standards, and make sure he doesn't see anything that would cause us to be more restrictive than we are right now.
Could we prepare a list of what are the changes? What are the changes from ours?
You can prepare whatever you'd like, but I would suggest I'll provide you with a copy of what we have, and you can compare it to what they are. And each of us might want to highlight what we have a question about, and we can ask Walt any further questions. The first item here was a presentation. That's a non-action item. Number 7 is consider and possibly approve subdivision and plat regulations and additional standards and rules. Obviously, I think that we want to table this. I'm going to put it back on at the next meeting 2 weeks from now. I don't know necessarily that you need to be at that evening meeting. If you want to be, that's fine. I don't anticipate we would take action there, but we'll utilize that time for some further discussion, and then perhaps come back in January with an action item. Tell us what your time frame is. Is there urgency in this matter?
No, there's no time urgency, and I do want to encourage the people that might be affected to give us their opinions. So to process those opinions, that's optimistic, January. It's not going to hurt anything if we let it slip a few more meetings. And there are lots of things for this project to be working on the checklist, and this is one of those things, one of the checklist items. So that time frame works for us, and it also, if we need more time, we can make that work too.
Okay, well, I'll still plan on putting it back on the next agenda. I just, while it's fresh on my mind, it helps me to continue to address this until we hammer it out. But our next meeting will be on the 22nd, and that will be an evening meeting. And again, any questions that come up, I can certainly call you the next day and ask you about it. All right, well, I'm going to ask you all to consider tabling item number 7.
Make that motion.
Got a motion by Commissioner Field, second by Commissioner Hockaday, and all those in favor of tabling this matter, item number 7, regarding the plat regulations, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. I'm going to take a 2-minute break and call our probation department and our district judge and make sure that they haven't forgotten about this, because it was my understanding this was an important matter. So let's recess for about 3 minutes.
That's the one from Morris County.
Joyce, I was talking about the attachments, those attachments. I never could get them. I didn't try it Friday. Okay.
Okay, go ahead. Okay, well, we're trying to find a missing probation officer and district judge. I don't know exactly what the reason is for their non-attendance, but unless there was a misunderstanding in the time.
They
But,
got court this morning.
well, why did they set this up? I don't know. Well, Ken just told me that Judge Woodson was in court, but they were thinking Judge Ralston was going to be here. Then Gilbert is in Camp County, so I don't know if he was thinking this was a nighttime meeting or what. But he is looking into seeing if he can get us an answer so that we know what kind of time frame we're looking at to get this grant filed. All right, let's look back now, jump backwards one notch to item number 6, consider and possibly take action on maintenance of county cemeteries. And since I do have David Horton is requested to speak, Mr. Horton, I'll let you go ahead and make a statement. Do you have some new information for us?
I'd like to defer anything I might have till we hear what you guys discuss.
Okay, all right. I know the commissioners have done a little bit of research. Commissioner Hockaday, can I share this information from John Mark Coburn? This was John Mark Coburn gave me this letter referencing utilization of county funds, personnel, or equipment for maintenance of cemeteries. Dear Commissioners, Commissioner Hockaday requested that my office research the legality of using county resources to maintain abandoned cemeteries in Titus County. The attached section from the Health and Safety Code may allow county resources to be utilized to maintain a cemetery that has a grave marker more than 50 years old. Please advise if you require additional information. I'm going to read here from the code here, section 713.028, county care of cemetery older than 50 years. For purposes of historical preservation or public health, safety, or welfare, a court may use public funds, county employees, county inmate labor as provided by Article 43.10, Code of Criminal Procedures, and county equipment to maintain a cemetery that has a grave marker more than 50 years old. This section does not apply to perpetual care cemeteries or a cemetery maintained by a religious or fraternal organization. At the discretion of the Commissioner's Court, a county may permit the use of public funds, county employees, county inmate labor as provided by Article 43.10, and county equipment to open and close graves in a cemetery described by subsection A. Commissioner Hockaday also provided me with a list of Titus County cemeteries. It's amazingly long. I had no idea that there were that many cemeteries in Titus County. It looks like a list of at least 60 different cemeteries. So I will open up the floor here for discussion. Anybody have any questions or comments regarding cemeteries?
I know, Mr. Horton, that there's several cemeteries out in Precinct 3 that I have no idea where they're all at. I mean, there are a lot of them on private lands, such as that, and we do haul some trash and fill dirt to some of them. I know that Nick Estrella has cleaned up the Evergreen Cemetery out there, and but there's a lot of them that we have not found that I know of.
I did have a list of where all those cemeteries were in Titus County, but I don't know. I misplaced it somewhere. The only thing I can find.
That right there.
Well, it lists them, but it doesn't tell you where they are.
It doesn't tell you where they're at. No.
Well, I know through the years, because this was something that came up my first year or two I was in office about the cemeteries, and we had some cemeteries that were really where families were helping take care of them, but really they didn't have it set up for a nonprofit. During the years, on my personal time, I have met with these people, and one is like the Blodgett Cemetery. You had a few people there. The land was given. It was not associated with the church there. And I sat down and took the Monticello Cemetery bylaws and minutes and stuff like that and typed all that up and changed it over to that. And during the process, got the people involved in it, and it was created, and now it's self-supporting. We've had 3 cemeteries done like that in about the last 20 years. That has really helped because you've got the people that have family there that's helping take care of the cemetery. But here again, I have one cemetery, 7 people in it. All the people, the family members are gone. They've either died off or moved, and I don't know where they're at. This particular cemetery had a person that would come down once a year and clean it up, and his health got bad, and after about 3 or 4 years I had heard he had passed away, and he was the only person I know of that would come down. I keep that cemetery, my own personal self, just to help. It's 7 graves that's there. We have one other place that has 1 person, and then we have another cemetery that has 11 people, and we keep that. The county helps with that. We try to clean it up once a year.
We have one that's really in bad shape, and that's what I call the Panther Cemetery over here in Glover's Bottom. We've had several situations where we come up and have people to come help, and we couldn't get in the gate. And I think we've got that worked out where we can get in there now. But we do have volunteers. We can get prisoners, but these prisoners have to qualify. They have to meet. A lot of this stuff has changed up over years ago. I could go get a prisoner and work him all day and not a problem. We can't do that anymore. They have to have an armed guard with this prisoner. I believe that's correct, isn't it, Tim?
Licensed jailer.
Yeah, licensed jailer. It's not like it used to, just go get them and work them. They have to qualify first to even be out of jail. With the new restrictions the state has put on all the prisoners and state prisoners, if you have a prisoner that's headed to TDC, we can't use him at all, can we? You know, he may be down there waiting, and he'd be glad to go, or she would be glad to go to help with this. There's been a lot more restrictions put on us than there were 20 years ago. It's one of those type things. We try to do it as we can. I know this year we've had several storms. Another thing, I know Mr. Oscar Hill, and I know you, but I know Mr. Hill has been out there at different cemeteries, and he's always there helping, doing whatever he can to make the situation better, and we greatly appreciate him, all the things that he does. You don't know the half of what he does out there, but he does a lot, and we appreciate that. That's great. What we try to do is take care of, I've got 3 that we try to take care of. Used to I had 6 or 7. Now that they're have created the situation where they've contacted families, they're given money, and they're able to take care of 3 of these cemeteries. Now they are like that, and the families go together and they have the money to take care of these cemeteries, and that's our ultimate goal, is trying to get the families or friends or distant relatives to get involved in this and let them help take care of it, because we're going to have times where we can do it, and we're going to have times it may be a month or 2 before we can get to it. But we've always helped in this situation. We just have more restrictions put on us, especially where we used to get prisoners. It wasn't that hard to get it done. Now you've got to coordinate with the jail to make sure you get the right people. They're not going to let people out there that doesn't qualify to be out there. So anyway, it's always going to be an ongoing situation, but we do try to do the best we can with what we have.
Like they've changed the regulations on these too from legislators have.
Yeah.
We used to didn't have any rules on doing the cemeteries, but now that there's a whole list of them we have to go by.
I think the last one was what, 2005?
I think so.
And used to you didn't have those rules and regulations. Now it's different. So anytime there's a question, we always ask the county attorney, or I usually call Bob Bass or Jim Allison in Austin, and they're real good. They work real close with the Texas Association of Counties, work real close with us.
Well, I admit I know very little bit about this subject. I don't know what expectations are of commissioners as it relates to cemeteries. A new subject for me. I don't know what is typically done in other counties. I'm just unfamiliar with it.
The regulation's pretty straightforward, right? We can take care of them if they're over 50 years old. If I read that thing
Yeah, you
correctly.
can.
So that's what we did in our case. If you got another one like that we don't know about, I'll look at the list, but we'll take care of it.
Judge, may I approach?
Please.
I heard the warranty of 60 cemeteries in Titus County. I have identified, let me show this, 115 different ones. I've broken this down according to precinct.
Thank you. I get the short list. All right.
I am honored to sit with Mr. Hill, who's done so much work on these cemeteries, manual labor. And at his age, it's a strain. But we need more support. We are obligated to the families that have gone before to keep these cemeteries in some reasonable condition. Now, in the past, we've approached various commissioners and with some success. Commissioner Boggs helped considerably with Spring Hill North Cemetery by removing a huge tree that had fallen, toppled several monuments and tore down the fence. He provided the necessary equipment to remove that tree carefully without doing further damage to the cemetery. I'd be happy to work. You mentioned Commissioner, about maps. I didn't know where they were. They're hard to find. They are. So many of them on private property. I've been cussed, slandered, threatened, you name it, by the property owners. They have access. Now, legally, we have access to those cemeteries. They can't forbid us access to it. They can set time, date, and means of access, but that's about the extent of it. I have maps which are very expensive to reproduce of where all the cemeteries are. I'll be happy to work with you guys that are interested in that, identifying, going to them. Mr. O has been to some of the cemeteries with me in the past. He wrote an article many years ago about one of the West New Hope, I believe, West New Hope Cemetery that Mr. O wrote about.
Yeah, that probably was.
Yeah. But anyway, be happy to work with any of you, whatever you have in mind. I'd like to see some response on this. Thank you much.
Mr. Horton, what do you have in mind? I'm curious. I don't know what you have in mind.
Excuse me?
I said, I don't know what you have in mind. What are your expectations of the Commissioner's Court as it relates to cemeteries? Just to kind of help me know.
I believe, according to what Mr. Fields put out, excuse me.
That's good. That's fine. It's pretty sensitive.
You have the commissioners have an obligation to work these cemeteries that are abandoned within the confines of the law. And private individuals, myself and Mr. Hill, and others have worked on some of these cemeteries from time to time. It's too big of a job. We need heavy equipment in many cases. The biggest danger are large dead trees that are fallen, or not fallen, but are shedding really onto the monuments, breaking the monuments and defiling the grave consequently. Getting those removed out of the cemetery. When they're first planted, they look nice and all that, but you have to look down the road at when they die themselves, what damage they're going to do to the graves that are around them. Many cases, it's difficult to get into them. Some of the cemeteries are so overgrown. This West New Hope, particularly that we're talking about, has briars about yay long all over it that you have to wade through to get to it. But to maintain those cemeteries in whatever means necessary to do so. And there are individuals, Mr. Austin expressed some desire at previous meetings that we had that he wanted the Historical Society involved in anything that we might do. Unfortunately, he's not here this morning, but see if some of them can help with the manual labor that's going to be necessary to go into that. I know the sheriff's office has been restricted further, but there was a cemetery that vandals got into, destroyed the monuments, knocked them down with their vehicles, and the sheriff's department had to cement them back together and erect them as much as they could long before Mr. Ingram's tenure. But that sort of thing is what we need to do. Right those monuments, for one thing. I know one cemetery that we had to dig out the dirt. The gophers had completely buried it. It had toppled over, and the gophers took over. So anything along those lines, and I think I've addressed that in setting the priorities. This was some time ago, setting the priorities of what needs to be done, when, in what order.
I'm certainly not challenging you. Here again, I'm asking you out of ignorance. Is maintenance of cemeteries typically or statutorily or whatever made a responsibility of the Commissioner's Court? I don't know who else would do it, but I just don't know.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, one thing, and I was looking at this list, and I noticed several things here, but one is the Barrett Cemetery. This was about, I guess, 7 years ago, when Mr. Paul Lindsay's dad organized that stuff. It is maintained now. They have supporting money. They have cemetery associated meeting. Paul did tell me that there was a big tree that had blown down here a month or so ago. And, you know, I basically told him if there's some assistance trying to get that tree out of there and stuff, call us. We'll be glad to help. I know we're going to have probably a big stump and stuff, but I'm just saying some of this stuff, I just wondered how old these reports were. Because I know it is now, it is financed, and people that have family in that cemetery are helping keep it mowed. It is mowed on a regular basis.
Right. We've tried to identify families that are related to the internees in these cemeteries, and it's very difficult.
It's very
time-consuming, and you hit a lot of rough spots in that regard, too. Yes, some of those have been corrected. It was something that, spur of the moment, along with Mr. Riddle, I was not able to access the agenda on the computer, so I wasn't quite prepared till last night for putting this together. I would updated that one a little bit, but at the time that was written, that was the status of things, and I don't think you'll find over 2 or 3 of them that you mentioned. I think Emerson, I don't mind area that you're responsible for, has
the reference.
been well taken care of.
Yes.
So there are a few things that may crop up like that, but it doesn't negate the overall concept of these things need attention.
Well, I do know, like in Blodgett, all the graves out there now have markers. The association buys a little granite and puts the date, the name, and the date they were born, and when they died, if they know that. Some of them they don't know. But every grave out there does have a marker on it. I know the old Monticello, the Bivens Cemetery, the old Monticello, same thing. Their Owens, she made sure all that was done. It really helps when you get somebody that has family there or something like that, because they can research it and find out exactly who's buried where, and it really helps out. I appreciate everybody that's involved in it.
If you
very
do
much.
identify a family, they have a certain obligation to assist in this process. Now, Oscar and I have worked with a couple of gentlemen that, yeah, they provided means, tractors, whatever, to work on some of the cemeteries. And that's what you need to do.
Yes.
Judge, I'm sorry, I don't think I've addressed your question.
Well, I'm not sure there's a clear answer, but I will ask the commissioners, is there any particular, you all know the need. I think that, it's probably not at the top of your priority list when things get busy. We do need to hear about this subject. I was not aware of it. Whether or not you're prepared to make any kind of motions at this time, any kind of action items or action plan, I'll leave that up to you. Mr. Horton, thank you for bringing this to our attention. Thank you for the work that you do. I think these guys have a strong willingness to help out. I'm not sure that they're ready to take over the day-to-day checking on it and maintaining it, but what I've heard here is a willingness to chip in and help out when the specific need arises, and we certainly do need to remove large trees, anything that's damaging to a cemetery.
Well, again, as you get into this, you will encounter people that will let you know that they are very upset about what's going on. And I still get emails, although I'm not associated with this in any form or fashion. I did a survey of all of these cemeteries that you see before you there. And I'm on the internet. My name is on the internet, being associated in that regard of doing the survey. And they will let you know that what needs to be done. It's not a day-to-day process. It's not a monthly process. If it was done annually, it would be sufficient.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, is there anything that you would like to do in the form of a motion?
I just think we need to just do what we're doing right now until we can get some. Yes, sir.
Mr. Hill, I don't have you on the agenda today, and I don't have you signed up as a speaker, and I've got a couple of district judges here that are needing to speak. If you would like to give us I'm not going to tell you can't talk at all. I'm just going to ask you to be brief, because I need to wrap this up in about 2 minutes so I can move on. Come on up to the podium.
Is there anybody that could approach Mr. Glover that has a dog food? I think his name's Jack, I'm not sure. But he's got cows out there, and those cows has knocked them things over. It wasn't vandals. And I approached his partner, and he told me he'd talk it over with Mr. Glover, but so far they hadn't put no monuments back up or anything. And if commissioners don't want to maintain these cemeteries, just go out there and spray them in April. We'll give us some Roundup. I do that and fix it. I don't know whether it's legal or not, but I kill everything. Thank you.
Mr. Hill, I can take care of that situation. We're trying to, our backhoe's been down for about 2 weeks, and we do have that on the plan to get those markers set back up.
Thank you. All right. Unless there is an action item that you would like to vote on, I'm going to move on. All right. I'm going to bump back here to item number 3, consider and possibly approve the formation of a drug court to include the application for grant funds. So we're pleased to have our 2 district judges, Judge Ralston, Judge Woodson, and the head of our adult probation, Gilbert Alvarez. Gentlemen, any of you like to begin? We're all ears.
All right, thank you for hearing this, and let me apologize, first of all, for the delay. I had a jury panel in, and we were able to dispose of the case without necessity, so.
Well, you didn't hold us up, and I'm glad we were able to get you over here.
Well, thank you. The issue that we have and what we're requesting the commissioners to consider And I'm just going to make some brief comments about it and then let Mr. Olivares talk to you about more details on it. But we've been considering implementing or starting a drug court. And just to give you a general overview of what that is. First of all, as Mr. Olivares will indicate to you, it's not going to cost the county any money. We're seeking a grant for the drug court to support that and to provide all the facilities, the people, anything that we need in connection with the drug court would be generated from grant funds, not from something from the county. In a drug court, just to give you a brief overview, is a court that's conducted by a judge, a district judge in this particular case, and we're trying to do it in all 3 counties. In other words, it's going to be Titus, Camp, and Morris, which is the 76, but also covers the 276, and of course, Judge Rawson also has Marion County, but would not include Marion County. And our likelihood of being approved for a grant is better if we have all 3 counties participating in this program. And the program is this, and all you have to do is pick up the local newspaper, and you can see how rampant the drug issue and drug problems, addiction. It's not just drugs, but it's alcohol too. And so any of those kinds of issues would be a proper thing to bring before a drug court. And a drug court is to try and assist some of these people who continue to come back to the criminal justice system and through the criminal justice system and continue to commit crimes because their addiction, the underlying problem, is never specifically and adequately addressed by the way the criminal justice system is set up to deal with those issues at the present time. We do have some programs that address those issues, like SafeP, which is a good program and it's proven to be a pretty effective program. But the drug court is sometimes the first opportunity that any of these offenders would have to actually have some type of counseling involved in addition to the penalties that are imposed by the criminal justice system. And it's not letting them off the hook. They are still subject to the criminal justice system. It's a part of a plea bargain process, a part of a process where they're accountable for the crimes they've committed, but it gives them an opportunity, instead of being incarcerated, to go through this program, the drug court program, to deal with their issues. We had the opportunity to go down to Cass County. Judge Dowd, who Judge Rawson and I have known for many years, he's implemented a drug court program down there. They have a staff. They have people that are all paid by the grant. Everything that is done is through the grant. And they have staff meetings. They select only certain individuals through the cooperation with the probation department. You have a law enforcement agent on there. You have a counselor on there. Of course, the probation department is instrumental in handling this issue, and you have random drug tests. And anyway, it's it's proven to be a very effective program. So it's something that we're asking we have to have the commissioner's approval before we can ask for the grant. And so we've got to get this grant in by February the 24th. All right, so we're trying to, and we're doing all 3 counties. I think Mr. Olivares just got back from Morris County. And we thought that was confusion. We thought we were going to be scheduled for the next commissioner's court, but it's worked out really well since we're here now. And but anyway, I'm going to let him give you some more statistics, more details about it, but it's a very worthy program. We were very impressed with what we saw. This is happening statewide and nationwide. This is not something that's just a general thing of interest, and it's something that's proven to be effective. And so we're asking for your consideration to approve a resolution to allow us to establish a drug court so that we can apply for the grant that Mr. Olivares will address. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning.
I just want to add a little bit, Woodson did a great job telling you guys what
Gilbert, will you introduce yourself to those in the audience that may not know you and what you
Yes,
do?
my name is Gilbert Olivares. I'm a supervisor here in Titus County Probation. Sorry. I think Judge Woodson did a really good job explaining what the drug court is all about. Of course, we haven't had one here. I think the nearest one is Cass County. I've had a chance to talk to their director, talk to their officers who handle the drug court. We actually have offenders that we see here that have been to their drug court, that have been to Bowie County's drug court. I've had people on my caseload that have told me I would be dead right now if I had not been to this drug court. They have been to several treatment facilities in the past. They've been to 30-day treatment facilities, 6 months treatment facilities, and none of them have ever worked. This has proven to work quite a bit nationwide. Drug court's been established for about 20 years now. We are just now trying to get on board with all those other counties and states that have a drug court program. Like Judge Woodson mentioned, our funds for this drug court program comes from a grant. Each county does not have to pay a dime. That's now, 5 years from now, 25 years from now, they will not have to pay a dime.
Well, be careful, you don't
Right.
lock yourself in there.
I've spoken to several who have mentioned we've been doing drug courts for 10 years and we have gotten a grant for the last 10 years. I know Cass County's been doing it for 4.5. They have actually been increased on their grant funds for the last 4.5 years. Catherine Betts has mentioned to me, she did not see a decline or so much of an increase with drug court programs, the participations and whatnot, especially in the rural areas.
What does a drug court do, Gilbert? Do y'all, is that the one you go to and they're sentenced, or y'all send them to a boot camp, or what happens in there?
Well, just like Judge Woodson mentioned, it will include several individuals that will become part of that drug court panel. It becomes a judge, defense counselor, a prosecutor, a licensed chemical counselor, someone from the probation office. That panel will get together to discuss each individual client as a whole, to find out what their needs are, if the drug court is a good fit for them. Because we cannot, of course, accept everyone. I think Cass County right now has about 40 participants in their drug court program. The drug court program consists of a 12-month intensive program that helps them basically get off alcohol and drugs, or both. It's what their main objective is. They're being held accountable. They have monthly meetings, sometimes weekly meetings with that individual to determine what their problems are, how can they fix their problems.
They recommend back to the judge what should be done with these individuals?
Yes, sir. The panel will get together to decide what all needs to be done, what route they believe as a group will suit that individual best, and then, of course, the judge will have a final recommendation on that. On average, I've gotten some numbers from Cass County. They tell me an average cost per inmate in prison is about a little over $28,000 per individual. In a drug court program, it's a little under $7,000 per year. So you're looking at a lot of cost savings for taxpayers as well as everyone else, because we're keeping them out of jails for sure, providing them the help that they need besides just locking them up.
Drug court doesn't take the place of the typical court setting where a case is heard, but as I understand it, it's some supplemental accountability that might be an alternative to prison time that's designed to help and ultimately cure somebody rather than simply punishing them, letting them sit in jail. And they're identified, I guess, on a what's the likelihood of drug court being able to help this person. Not everyone who's convicted of a drug crime goes through the drug court, but
Correct.
Your panel identifies those that are a good match, like you said, and you said they had, what, 40?
Approximately 40.
40 in Cass County. I mean,
And it's very intensive.
that's a fairly large load, and you're asking for some additional hours out of our judges and some additional people that I guess would be paid. But I've read about it. I've seen a program on television. I went to a meeting with Judges Woodson and Ralston. I think it's a fantastic idea, and we have a drug problem. I mean, who doesn't these days? What county doesn't? But we certainly do, and we need all the help we can get. And if we can get some funds for something like this, we need to apply for it today.
Correct. And that's what we're asking for.
Okay. Christy?
We also, the state, the county clerk, the district clerk collects the drug program fee, and we've been having to send all the 10% back because we don't have a program set up. So I'll need to get.
And we get 50% of it if we get this program set up?
Get it set up and we get 50% of it, so that's something we want to get.
That's in addition to the grant money, right? Okay. What's the amount of the grant? Do you happen to know what we're shooting for?
I just know a few numbers. I don't know exactly what we would get. Cass County gets approximately $250,000 on the grant. That covers
Annually?
annually. It covers
Wow.
salaries, covers drug testing, which is a lot. I know a lot of people don't understand how that works. Each individual drug test can cost you up to $30 per test, and these people are being tested 3-4 times a week. So you can see how 40 times 3 times 4 and all starts adding up really, really fast. It covers everything. Hopefully we can get someone on board that is a certified counselor. We have a few in mind we still need to talk to. We're just hoping that we get the approval so that we can move forward.
Judge, I make a motion we approve the drug formation, drug court, for the drug court.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Hockaday, second by Commissioner Hinton. All in favor of giving authorization to proceed with the formation of a drug court and applying for this grant, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate it. This was an easy decision. I knew that it would be. We're happy to take part in getting this started, and we're thankful for the time that you all will spend getting this up and going, and you too. All right. Thank you all. You're welcome to get back to business. Would you put them on hold over there? All right, I'm going to jump down to item number 10. We've got some expensive IT guys here with us today, and I'm going to turn it over to Sean Bryant. Sean's going to talk to you about the information technology services that they provide and ask you to consider renewal of a contract with K-Bro.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's been long, and I'm sure I came a little late, but you guys look like you're ready to get through this. But I just want to say thank you all very much for allowing us to serve you as long as we have. I've been here nearly 13 years, made a lot of good working relationships, and just really been a pleasure. When I first started my business 7 years ago, this was one of the first counties and one of the first businesses we targeted. And so I just have kind of a special place in my heart for this home, but just want to say thank you before we get started. So, got some.
Thank you.
Okay, what we have here is we had a meeting on Friday with the IT committee, and we went over some things, and they came back to us and said, okay, this is what we want you to present to the court, and so that's what we have before you here. If you look at, there's 3 boxes here, 3 primary, there's one top, one middle, and one bottom, and basically what they are is 3 contract options, okay? So if you look at the blue line running down the top box, that gives you your average hours per week. What that is in 2013, 2014, this was where our hours are going. So you have an idea there of what, where we're at and what we're doing mostly, and kind of where our time is being spent. If you look at the green line next to it, that gives you the contract rate, what you're actually paying for those hours. And under contract, you're at $29.95 an hour. And so on the right-hand side, there's the red line, basically, that gives you, if it was outside of contract, that's $75 an hour. That's pretty standard for this area. So after I got my year-end report from the guys that work here with me, we were actually at about 50 hours per week by the end, with technology changing and things like that. But what you actually pay for is only 40 hours per week. That was just something that, again, as a thank you, we just provided that service to try to keep you guys up and running without coming back to the court and saying, hey, we need more money. So we are prepared to offer the same terms, same money as we have in the past, 40 hours a week. Because we're running over right now, we would have to back off on a few little things that you probably wouldn't notice, but we're really adamant about staying on security and staying on your backups, doing weekly stuff instead of monthly, but we could shave those hours if we needed to. We just felt that it was really more important to just go ahead and eat the time and make sure that you guys are taken care of. So what you have here is option A, which ends up being $57,500.04, and that gives you 1,920 hours per year. And then in the second bracket, what you have is the second contract option. This is not an addition. This is everything in A and B combined. And what these are is all the items that the IT committee brought to us and said, hey, these are things we're looking at this next few years. You've got a lot of stuff moving. a lot of offices changing and things like that. And it's also the things that you typically pay for outside of contract. So you're normally paying $75 an hour for each one of these items as you need them. And so it just made sense to the IT committee and us to say, why not pay about 60% less of that and put that in another option for a contract here and pay $29.95 an hour as opposed to $75. And so generally what that's going to get you is 60 hours a week. We believe that will provide us plenty of time to be able to get everything taken care of, come the move, your coordination, your planning. Of course, we've got the new next-gen Sonic walls that are in, so we're going to be looking at taking advantage of some of those features, being able to track hackers and things like that. We'll be able to do a lot more now. And so we're excited about that. However, the third option that we have is essentially all this is hardware. You're looking at usually your policy allows you to buy 20 computers a year. What that does is it keeps us up to date. It keeps us at roughly not having a machine that's older than 5 years old. And so all this is hardware on the bottom. And so the reason you would want to even consider rolling that into the contract instead of paying for it, whenever this happens is, let's say Judge Lee decides, hey, I'm ready for my computer, but we ordered the computer 6 months ago. We have that now where we've got a couple of machines left from this last time that, like Judy Cook, she still has just got out of taxi and she's just not ready for it yet. Well, the problem with that is because we bought them 6 months ago or so, which is fine, but she's got 6-month-old hardware. She can't just call us and say, hey, we want to order right now. We had to lock in those prices when we could. What this does is this allows us to go to our vendors and say, hey, we want to buy 20 units this year. And they'll send us the newest hardware available at the time. So that's just something to consider. It seemed to make sense to the IT committee again. So this is what they recommended. We do have a couple of other items on the bottom here. You'll notice we've got a couple of UPS backups, which is time to replace some of those. We'll have probably 3 or 4 this year that we'll need to replace, and then a couple next year. And then we have a couple of switches actually that are starting to drop ports. We had some items in, we have one actually right here in this closet that's dropping ports. We noticed when we were working with TLS, some of their printers and things were dropping, and it was because the ports are going bad, which means it's an indicator that, hey, these things are about to drop. So these are the things that the county runs through. It's something that you're going to have to replace one way or the other. Otherwise, the county goes down as far as network's concerned. So anyway, the way this is structured is you have option A, which is 57.5, which is 40 hours a week. You have option B, which is A and B combined, and that's 86,256 for the year at 2880 hours per year. And then you have option C, which essentially just includes the hardware. That keeps us from having to come to you every time and say, hey, we need more, or hey, you ready to order your computers. If you're planning on spending that money anyway, you don't save a lot of money here, but what you do is, like I said, you get hardware when you want it rather than something that's been sitting there for a while. A couple of things in B that I need to mention is we've got a major upgrade coming on your web server, which is it's called Ubuntu 10.04 TLS server upgrade. It's the top line there, and every 5 years you have to upgrade your operating system with Linux. That's your web server. That's if you go to your Titus County website, we need to take basically a backup machine and load that operating system on it and swap it out and put it on. It's about a 3-day process. Not a lot of time. But it will require, David to come in and do what he does. Typically, he's assigned to that project. We've added a couple of offices here. We worked quite a bit with, like, the adult probation's office whenever they were moving, specifically the district judge's office. I was talking to Judge Lee, and he was curious why they weren't even on the contract, and really, honestly, they should be. I didn't see any point in adding more money to the base contract. We're just looking for the hours allowed to be able to work those offices is all that is. Typically, you have your quarterly backups that we do, and what that is we come in and your mainframe and then all your primary servers and everything, we back those up every quarter. It's an off-site backup, so we take the data, we carry it off-site. That's something you purchased the last 2 years as well. Emergency, off hours, weekend hours, basically what that allows us to do is stay by the phone, so if Tim's office needs us, then he can call us and we can come in and get him taken care of quickly without having to go through court and get approval and all those types of things. And again, that saves you nearly 60% to have everything rolled into a contract as opposed to just buying at $75 an hour when you're ready. So I think that, any questions here?
Do you happen to know what we've spent total with you the last 2 years? Because I know that even though we're on this 40-hour-per-week contract, I know we have bought blocks of time from you because we simply can't survive on 40 hours a week.
I don't actually have the exact number because our billing transition has changed and it was such a short week last week, but I do know for sure that it was well over 30,000. So by the time you bought the hours that you had, and then we had some major disasters go on, we had to bill for that, and then we had the changes that happened with the upgrades, and then we had people moving, so there was a lot of extra expenses this last year. And we anticipate seeing quite a bit this next coming year simply because you've got so many offices moving and doing what they're doing. So, again, we can always try to move, rearrange, some of the hours up here on option A, if that's what the court decides for us to do, but we need to know that, and what we have to do in turn is turn around when an office says, hey, we need you to come do this, we have to put them off, and we don't like doing that, so.
But we spent 30 on top of the 57.5 for the last couple of years.
Absolutely, and I think Carl was fair.
And we were doing that at the $75 an hour rate?
Yes, sir.
Buying those blocks of time?
And just to give you an example, the average rate for this area under contract is roughly $44 an hour for most ITs that are a company and not just an individual running around at a base level. You have a software engineer, their average salary is around $80,000 a year. You have an IT guy in Seth where he runs around and handles all the hardware at the local level. You have me and Justin for IT consulting and managing. And so it's not just like an individual, of course you guys know that, but it is it's a team here that works here in the county to make sure we're on top of everything that you need.
Is there additional work here under option B that we haven't had? And if so, explain why we now need this.
The primary thing is going to be the moves that you have, the 2 offices that we added, and then we have some issues like, of course you guys remember when I first started, we come in and it was like I was on here, it was basically me working for Net Data Corporation 40 hours a week. We had dumb terminals and a couple of machines that had internet. It was something very simple, something very easy for us to come in and do, but as time has changed, and you've got machines with 2 screens, 2 monitors, we got to have net data here, and we need to have access to this over here, and now we've got 4 or 5 different printers at some, for receipt printers and local printers and network printers. Then of course all the servers that you added and your YouTube uploads and it's just a lot of extra work that continues, and that's just how how the times are going. It's just going towards technology, and so things are changing and things are increasing. But overall, it really is just, like I said, it shows, our year-end totals were nearly 50 hours last year. And so it's just because the technology is changing mainly. But primarily, to answer your question, it is going to be the additional offices, the movings that are taking place. This will eliminate ever having to come back and say, hey, we need money for web hours. This is going to resolve all that. When you need something, you get it, outside of saying, hey, we want to redesign the entire website. But anything you ever need, you pick up a phone calls and it's done. We don't have to keep up with hours. We don't have to bill you at $75 an hour. It's $29.95. So.
Tell the commissioners about the this change over to e-filing that's going on in the clerk's office. Where are we in that? Is the bulk of that going to fall in calendar year 2015, or have we already incurred that?
I don't have a lot of details behind it. I have met with, talking about for Deborah's office, I'm assuming.
Deborah and Diane's both.
Diane hasn't talked to me much about it, but I know for sure that in Deborah's office, they are under specific requirements to do, like you mentioned, e-filing, so everything's going to be digital, everything's a lot faster. But it is going to require, it's going to be this coming year, 2015. She actually thought originally it was going to be 2014, the end of 2014. I guess they pushed it out, the requirements to 2015. That's something, of course, we would cover under contract option A. That's, day-to-day operations. I can't imagine it's going to be a whole lot of work extra for us, but it will be something that we'll have to address whenever it comes up. So.
What was the recommendation of the committee?
The IT committee actually recommended if the court chooses, if they're going to purchase the same things that they normally do every year, which is the upgrades, the web hours, those types of things, they saw that it just made more sense to pay $29.95 an hour rather than $60 an hour or $75 an hour. So they actually recommended option B or C. And the reason that they said C is they like the idea of having everything paid for, and then when I pick up the phone and call, hey guys, we need a computer here, we'll have a couple on standby, but for the most part you get brand new hardware no matter when you order. And obviously, we would guarantee that you get your 20 within the year. Same thing with our vendors. They would require by the end of the year that we have to order the rest of those computers. So.
The only question I have on what you see would be, paying for 20 computers, somebody's going to track whether we actually drop.
Get your 20.
Computers here is going to be in every year, because now we're paying for them every.
That's true. If you like, we could work with the auditor's office and provide them the serial numbers, and as soon as they come in and win, that would be no problem, and then we would be liable at the end of the year had you not received those 20.
Now, there doesn't seem to be a problem with a 6-month-old computer. I see a problem with a 5-year-old computer, but.
Right. 6 months, really, yeah. You're not going to see a whole lot of change, that's true. But it's just, again, 6 months, technology changes, like they say, a couple of months and you got an old computer is kind of the same thing. But essentially, honestly, all these options, whichever one you choose to go with is fine with us. It makes sense. We're happy with option A, which is why we offered it. I understand option B is more money, but if you're planning on buying this stuff anyway, we're going to have all these changes taking place, these offices moving and things like that, it just seemed to make more sense to pay less money.
Well, there's nothing on here that's optional, is there? I mean, well, this is just a nice thing that, you ought to consider doing. Looks to me like everything here has got to occur. So do we pay for it under contract? Do we pay for it by buying blocks of time? I mean, is that correct? Are there any optional, luxury items on here?
Unfortunately, no. I didn't really include anything outside of what the IT committee had discussed with us, and they essentially said, these are the things that we're looking at. We went by one and looked at each item and said, this is what we're doing, and this is what you've done the last few years. Do you see that changing? And they agreed that no. So these are essential items that you typically buy. Now, of course, I mean, it's like anything else. You don't have to run a backup every month, but if something happens, you'll wish you had. So, as we've gone over that the last few years. But.
And note that adult probation and the district judge's office have heretofore not been a part of our contract, but
yes, sir.
There's nobody else that's taking care of those systems. We need somebody doing it, and you all have been doing it because they'd call you and say, help, we need you.
So the adult probation's office specifically too, since they've moved, we just found that it saved the county more money, and it was just a lot easier on everyone to actually move them under your network, whereas they had their own DSL line running to their office, and now they're under this primary network again. So it's going to require us to work with them one way or the other. The difference is basically essentially allowing us to go beyond just saying, okay, now you're connected to the internet, somebody else will have to address, or you'll have to buy outside time for us to come in and make some changes at the hardware level. So
There's nothing in there specifically in these B option that speaks to the hours to move the offices around. But
yep.
You're just saying it would be covered under these hours.
Absolutely, yes, sir. So the goal is when we looked at our year-end reports, when I went with David said to Justin, I said, okay guys, I need to know how much time you're spending, where we're at, where we at average on the year, and of course I formed the document. We looked at all the items that we had done and all the items that you guys normally buy, and then the stuff that we're looking for this year. When I brought this originally to the IT committee, I didn't realize that many offices were moving. And so I said, you want to make sure and put that on there. And so we rearranged some stuff, but essentially everything that's on here is the stuff that the IT committee looked at and said, I don't see anything outside of that. But again, the goal is to just answer your question, Carl. The goal is to get to where we don't have to bill at $75 an hour anymore. I just think that's silly to have to do that. One of the things, we made an exception before on our weekly backups for your documents and things like that. But for the most part, we just seem to make more sense for everybody as far as we're concerned. Again, unless you're not going to buy some of these items. And if you don't plan on doing that this year, you're not going to spend the money for some of the items here. And if you have any questions, of course, I'm here to answer those. But if you're planning on not doing some of these, then maybe we can back off some hours. But this is just what was recommended that I bring before the board.
This is a 2-year contract, is it not?
We have a 2-year or a 3-year option. Typically, we do 2-year options. Yes, sir.
Is this heavy in 2015 that we wouldn't need in 2016? Or in other words, are we committing to more than we need possibly in 2016?
Well, if we go down and we look at most of the items that are listed here, let me see if I can find where I assume the full service move here.
Well, I do see a line of movement down there. Maybe it's 1 hour a week, so 52 hours.
So roughly, yeah, and so that's probably a little bit on the soft side as far as how much time's involved. We just won't know until we get to cross that bridge how much time's going to be involved. What we do know is if it takes more than this, that'll be at our loss, just like it was last year. We're working 50 hours a week instead of 40. That's something we would just cover under contract, and it wouldn't fall back on the court for you guys to pay that expense. But as far as 2015 to 2016, the move is really the only thing that I see that will change. All these other items, maybe the web hours will change a little bit, but you're talking, 2 hours a week, and of course, there's always things for the IT to do. So, as technology changes, as we go to e-filing, as those systems change, it's going to require more of our time. And so, if that helps.
Commissioner Riddle, anything on behalf of the committee you want to add to this? Is that a no? Okay. Commissioner Field?
On security, is everything still?
Everything's actually better than it was because we've gone with these next-gen sonic walls, which allow us much more protection than we had before. I mean, it is so much better. There is never a guarantee when it comes to digital security. The government knows that. However, as far as having the up-to-date equipment, the newest things, you guys have purchased this previous last year. You guys are really in good shape there. So, one thing that I need to mention too about the hardware, if we lock in a price with my vendor, I don't have to worry about when it gets to be school season and when it gets to be Christmas because they jack the prices way up. So I don't have to worry. So if you wanted to, so let's say you're going to order at that time instead, you don't have to worry about the price going up to $700 or whatever it would be. $60 a machine, but when you're ordering 20 a year, that costs the court a little more money. So just something to keep in mind.
Judge, one thing, just as the auditor, that I would tell you is that this is a contract, so you can approve it, you can request.
Yeah, that was my next subject.
Because it's over $50,000. But it's not you're not bidding equipment, you're bidding a service, so it's not really a bid, it's a request for proposal, just like outside auditor. You don't have to take them on bids. But you can ask for other companies.
Yep. Any other questions here? Well, it's my understanding then, really, we need to ask for some more proposals, at least ask them and find out if they're out there.
Well, you don't have to, because it's not a bid, it's a request for proposal.
Well, we haven't made that request for proposal yet. I don't know who I would even call that could provide the services that KBRO provides for us, knowing the intricacies of our system and the multiple platforms on which we operate. I don't even know who that would be. I'm sure there's somebody out there. We'll have to find out.
They would have to agree to the number of hours that you have to have. So, yeah, I don't think anybody out of Dallas is going to come down here and do that because of the number of hours involved. But you do have that option of making requests or whatever. I don't know if there's any other companies.
I could tell you, just for working with us, there are a couple of companies that actually that do compete with us in these areas. The thing that sets us apart is because I was able to work for NetData for 6 years. I just know the mainframe system, the IBM system, and that's just not something most IT companies can do. So that actually sets us ahead. And since everything from NetData wise you do is through that mainframe, that's what we do. So what you would want to look at Court, is that you would essentially want to hire an IT company or look at a bid from an IT company, and then keep in mind that you're most likely going to have to pay Net Data $150 to come in and do what they do, or work with that IT company however they do. As it stands, you only work with us because we are familiar with them, we have a good working relationship with them, so we're able to handle it without having to, charge the court more money.
Well, and in my conversations a couple of years ago and most recently with the high-ups at Net Data, I asked them, I said, I'm happy with K-Bro, but I need to know, is there somebody else out there that could provide for us what you know that we need? And they kind of looked at each other and said, no, not really. I mean, they're giving you a lot of credit for the Net Data base knowledge that you have. Now, again, that doesn't mean there's not somebody out there, but whether or not it would be a good move to bring somebody in that's new to our system, we've got to always ask ourselves that question.
Absolutely.
It's no offense. We want
Not
the
at all.
best.
Not at
we want
all.
the
I
best
understand
value.
completely. I was happy to hear that when we talked to the IT committee, we didn't have a single complaint. They were just really thankful that we were able to do what we did and get to their attentions. If anybody has any complaints, I certainly would be willing to hear it.
And I'm grateful too for what you've done for us this year, and I'm not aware of any complaints. When does this contract renew?
It'll be next month.
1st of January is when it is, not the
I
first.
believe it's actually the end. It's the 1st of February.
I was thinking February 1.
February 1. Yes, sir.
All right, here's your question time. If you have any comments, I'd like to hear what y'all would like for me to do.
That renews February the 1st.
Yes, sir. February 1 will be when if you were to renew, that's when the contract would be expiring, and then, of course, the new one would begin.
I'm gonna make a motion, we table this for the next meeting or the next one after that.
Okay. Got a motion on the floor by Commissioner Hockaday that we table this, give us a little time to think about this and consider, pursuing at least another interested party that might give us an idea of what they could provide the same service for. And again, no reflection on our disappointment with you. You understand how the process works.
Sure.
Second by Commissioner Hinton. All those in favor of tabling this, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. We appreciate you again very much, and thank you for taking time to be here. All right, let's jump back to item number 8. Consider and possibly approve a modification to the health insurance plan to address the issue of a retiree that goes on to disability. As best we can tell, this is a first-time occurrence, but I had a phone call from an employee who is currently covered as a retiree on our insurance plan, and the question was, hey, I'm getting ready to file an attempt to go on disability, but I certainly don't want to jeopardize my county insurance. And so I asked CAPS Insurance and UMR to give me their opinion on this matter, and let me tell you what she has responded here. This is from the people involved in this conversation were Christy and Chris Kaplinger, who is with UMR, and Tony Melton with CAPS Insurance. Brian, I have spent the day trying to find another person at Titus County who has been on SSI disability and is a retiree of the county. I don't think there's a precedent for this, and I have expressed this to the employee. Here's what Chris Kaplinger said with UMR. In reviewing the Titus County plan document on page 64, there are several bullet points that may answer your question. Here's what I found. Medicare generally pays first under the following circumstances. If you or a covered family member has Medicare coverage based on disability, plus you also have COBRA continuation coverage through the plan, Medicare normally pays first. However, one exception is that COBRA may pay first for covered persons until the end of a 30-month period, or you and your covered spouse have retiree coverage plus Medicare coverage. I believe the court would need to make a ruling that if the retiree goes on to disability, then Medicare is primary and the court would pick up as secondary for anything Medicare did not cover, such as prescription drugs. So again, we just want to be sure that we are in line with what our plan says. We want to be sure that this employee understands that if she takes disability, which I'm certainly hoping she can qualify for that disability, because in this case that it is appropriate for her, that we are all in agreement that we will allow that Medicare coverage, if it pays, to pay first, and then the county's insurance would pick up as the secondary for anything Medicare did not cover. In other words, to boil it down, the employee simply wants to be sure that she is not giving up the county insurance by going on to disability. She would like for her benefits to remain at least as good as they are now. And there does not appear to be a conflict there as long as we acknowledge this situation.
I don't want to question on that. It's just my opinion about how we do that. I thought a retiree, once they became eligible for Medicare, not on it.
Well, this is somewhat of a different situation, this disability. That's why it requires us to take a vote as to how we are going to handle this.
Would, no matter how old they are, if they're eligible for Medicare, are they eligible for all the stuff for Medicare?
I don't think so, according to what Tony said. It's not the same kind of Medicare coverage as somebody who's on full Medicare. The technical points of difference, I can't really tell you.
The coverage is going to be the same, but then I would think that they should go over that coverage, period. And we wouldn't pay prescriptions or anything else, because we don't do that when somebody's turned 65.
Right, right.
We don't pay anything.
That's true.
Judge, I think probably you need to call her, because she's got some pretty health problems. And maybe explain what this situation is before we make a decision.
Well, I'm not sure I can explain it to you any better than I've explained it to you. I believe that she understands.
She may not want.
Well, she's had more conversations with Chris and with Tony than I have, and she's not real sure, what the impact is here. Again, she's just saying, if going on disability is going to hinder my county coverage or make my benefits result in less coverage to me, then that would affect my decision. I think in this case it appears that Medicare will kick in first, but that we would back up the Medicare and cover whatever Medicare is not paying. So, again,
Is Medicare and SSI different, or are they different?
Are they different? Medicare and SSI?
Yeah.
Medicare would
Sure.
be different from SSI.
She didn't address-
She's not going on. So I don't know how you define disability benefits, to tell you the truth. I believe it is different from SSI, but I can't tell you what the specific differences are.
SSI is an income-based disability.
Income-based disability.
SSI, if you're talking about supplemental social security.
Okay.
Do you know if Medicare, people who are on SSI disability, eligible for different than one when you turn 65?
Different with regard to benefits?
Yes.
Medicare is the same whether, regardless of which is primary or secondary, the question is which one will be primary or secondary. And I think that ultimate answer is with your reinsurance company. That's where the risk is. So your third-party administrator should be checking with your reinsurance company to define the coordination of benefits. So you're trying to determine who will pay first. That's what I'm gathering.
She said
And the
Medicare.
ultimate answer to that is with your reinsurance company. They're holding the
And you understand what she's asking for, and I would ask for the same thing, and that is, will the county tell me that they'll back up for me? What if I wasn't taking disability, I'd like to be sure that the same things that I have covered if I'm not on disability, the things that I'm covered with the county insurance, that I'll be covered at least as well when I'm taking some disability. And that means there's going to be some Medicare benefits involved, and the way that it reads here and what they're telling me is that our insurance becomes secondary to the Medicare. Either that, or we say, sorry, retiree, if you take disability and you take Medicare, you're off of county insurance. So again, we don't have a precedent for this. You know, if we tell her, no, we're not going to cover you.
Well, our rule says that if you go on Medicare, you go off the county insurance. I mean, and that our rule. I mean, we don't have one specifically for this, but.
If Medicare is first, that means you're on Medicare, I guess, if I'm listening right.
Well, I think that is how our interpretation of it has been. Like I said, this case hasn't come up before. If somebody could say, yeah, but you just meant that when you turned 65, so I mean, I think you're going to need to clarify the policy. If that's the intention, you still want to keep that intention, then we need to say, anytime you go come out for Medicare, you go off insurance, no matter if you're 45, you've been in a car wreck, or you're 65, you're retired.
Yeah.
Because the other costs can come into play. I understand we're talking about the reinsurance. That's going to be where they've got a large, expensive procedure going on. The drug care is not going to be covered by that. And it could be very expensive over a long period of time. And I'm not trying to, I mean, it's a very delicate situation.
It is.
I don't want to make it any harder for somebody who's 45 years old and gets a car wreck and gets disabled. But, you know, that's it.
Yeah, I had to make a decision, so.
But that has been our understanding of how we did it. When they came out for Medicare, they came off of our insurance. But this particular question has come up before, and it could come up with
Sure, yeah, it could. But the fact that they're a retiree does make it a little bit different as opposed to an active, as opposed to an active employee. Probably doesn't treat it, our policy doesn't treat them any different as far as when it comes to benefits. And I could have asked this employee to make their plea to the court, but you understand what they're asking for. I want to have the best that I can have without jeopardizing my county insurance, because I'm assuming that the county insurance would be superior to what Medicare is going to pay, but I don't know that. This is a judgment call that we've got to make as regarding our plan, and we can say, plan says Medicare coverage takes over, you're off of our insurance, or you can say that we'll back up what Medicare doesn't cover, up to what normally would be covered by our plan. I'll get you.
I'm not open to being on Medicare, but my parents were on Medicare, and I lost them on Medicare, and I never got the impression that Medicare insurance would have been any worse than county insurance. It's just the county insurance is being paid for.
I have no experience with that either.
Well, I'm on Medicare. You get Medicare, insist that the insurance pay first, then they pay after that.
Right, but I'm just saying, if you didn't have any other insurance besides Medicare, I think your choices of coverage and doctors and stuff is just as good as ours.
What you're saying is Medicare is going to ask you, do you have any other coverage? And if you say, yes, I do, they're going to say, then they're going to cover it. So if we leave the door open for her to still have county claims capability, Medicare might say, we're not paying.
Right, or they pay after mine.
No, that's a...
But the insurance paid first, and that's probably what would happen here, although that lady from UMR didn't say that. She said Medicare would be first, if I understood you correctly.
Everything I've read about it, it doesn't, we'd still be the primary.
Would be the primary.
Unless our policy says, once you become eligible for Medicare, you go off our insurance.
If you
If
don't,
you were 66, retired, and became eligible for Medicare, if we drop you, the Medicare is not going to come back to our policy and say we have to pay.
right.
Not at 66.
If you drop them, you're right.
But
If they drop-
but I'm saying, Thomas, if our policy was that we drop you whenever you become eligible for it, whether it's a disability or whatever, when we drop you, then Medicare can't come back to us and say.
That's right.
That's exactly what happened to
And
me.
if you don't do that, I think,
Yeah, that's what happened. I dropped,
I think they're gonna say we're first and they're second.
I do too.
I dropped my private insurance, Medicare pays, all of it.
Kay, you're being quiet back there. Have you got anything to help us on this? I'm sorry. Do you have any opinions on this?
I do have an opinion, and that is this is an important provision. You're going to see more and more individuals that are combined with Medicare and various disability policies. I think that would be for 1 week and have your third-party administrator check with the reinsurance. The reason I'm pushing on that is that's a legal document and an ultimate responsibility for any one claim. The most important issue on this is what will the claim be denied? Your reinsurance company is the ultimate authority on that, and I do believe your prescription is under your reinsurance, just to answer your question, if I remember.
It may be in certain form, but my understanding of reinsurance is we have to spend more than
I mean, you still
60,000
have,
or something before.
but that's the whole point. You never know what the cost of the claim will be.
Right.
So your reinsurance company is your rival on your plan. So that's my recommendation. This Medicare, who's primary and secondary, is murky water, so I think it deserves another look and another visit with your
Okay.
third-party administrator.
Sounds good.
It falls on them to be-
Sounds good.
I think you'll find that Medicare will shut off any risk they can. So the likelihood is it will entertain a Titus County claim.
Okay, thank you. Does that sound reasonable? We table this and try to get some better clarification?
I think so. And I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Hockaday, second by Commissioner Hinton, that we table this and attempt to get some better clarification from CAPS and UMR on this matter. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Item number 9, consider and possibly take action on out-of-network insurance claims previously discussed at our last meeting on November 24th. If you'll recall the discussion that we had regarding the mammogram bus, and the decision that we made it clear that any out-of-network additional expenses that the employee incurred would be the responsibility of the employee. I had asked UMR and CAPS to provide me, when this conversation first came up, please let me know if having the East Texas Medical Center mammogram bus here doing mammograms resulted in additional costs to the employee, or was it about the same, or was it greater, less than, or the same? And I was told initially, oh yes, it's going to cost you more if you pay 100% of those claims. For example, if an employee went to an in-network provider, they would have that service provided at 100%. And so the question was, if we say we're going to go ahead and pay 100%, you need to change your tape? Yes. If we want to cover that employee 100%, does the fact that it has been done by an out-of-network service provider increase the cost to the county? The initial answer to me was yes, and that's what I brought to you last week. But I said I would still like to see what the price differentials were for an out-of-network and an in-network provider. Well, When they actually got down to it and dug into it, they found that someone that went to Titus Regional Medical Center, who is in network, that cost to the county would actually be more than what we would pay to East Texas Medical Center on an out-of-network claim, because there's a difference between the cost that the provider charges at ETMC and at Titus Regional. Now, that's not to say that we can't find another provider that would beat the cost of Titus Regional Medical Center and beat the cost of East Texas Medical Center as an out-of-network provider, but I felt like TRMC was a good comparison because we were obviously trying to encourage people to do business locally, and we have TRMC in our network. Based on that, I believe that we should reconsider that decision and go ahead and pay at 100% those charges to East Texas Medical Center for the provision of that mammogram bus in this particular case. Not make a commitment going forward, but I believe with the help of UMR and CAPS, we can at least find 2 or 3 other providers that might be ones that we should consider. Now, here's a little bit of additional twist. I've also found out that if you pay cash at TRMC, you get a considerable discount. I mean, at like less than 50% of the normal cost. And so going forward, we may want to make an arrangement with TRMC to pay mammograms directly by the county as opposed to paying it through our medical insurance. That was the suggestion of CAPS. That opportunity is behind us as far as considering a comparison with the ETMC mammogram bus. But I would like you to reconsider that decision and simply base it not on whether or not the employee did the right thing of going in network or out of network, but simply because if they had gone in network at TRMC, it would have actually cost us more than the price that we would pay to East Texas Medical Center. Have I clarified that at all?
No.
When you having East Titus County was because of the prices was going to be better out there on all exams and everything. I thought East Texas Medical was so high.
Well, again, there wasn't that much difference between the cost, but it was enough to where there was not a penalty involved if we were to pay East Texas Medical Center at 100%. And again, next year, if it comes down to knowing what I know now and paying TRMC at their full rate versus paying for the mammogram bus, I'd bring the mammogram bus up here myself, even though it's out of network. But I think that we can make an arrangement with TRMC to provide it at substantially less than East Texas Medical Center or TRMC.
Sign some kind of contract with them to do all the mammograms at a certain.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
You know, when you have these mammograms done and stuff, I know they send them to certain doctors and they look at them and stuff. But that, one of the reasons I talked to some of the ladies, they said basically they've used that. They've used it for years. It's been an option that they've had through the years. The last couple of years we had changed, but they still go through them and they send the mammograms to their doctors, their physicians, these type things. And they don't want to change doctors. They don't want to change these other things. And I understand, you know, it's supposed to be higher, and then we find out it's not higher. You know, this is, to me, it would be better to bring that bus up here. And the people that want to use it can. If they don't, they can go to the hospital. But I think we need to, on these type things, preventive, I think they need to use the people they want to use.
I'm afraid on this Obamacare, you won't get a plumb away from that.
This is separate from that.
Well, I don't think that you can, you need to further explain yourself. They still have the right to to call that mammogram bus up here and use it. But what we have told them is, if you do that, it's an out-of-network charge, and you're going to pay an out-of-network penalty. That was the whole point of the discussion was, are you not going to cover my mammogram at 100%? And we said, no, we're not going to. You opted for an out-of-network provider, and that's your prerogative. You can do that, but there is going to be a penalty that you're going to pay.
Judge, I think we need to go ahead and pay this East Texas Medical now. But maybe you talk to Titus and get some kind of contract drawn up, or contract with them, and we can tell them if they want the bus, they can use the bus, but that's gonna be where we're gonna pay them out there. They'll have to pay the difference.
But it'll still be an out-of-network
Out-of-network?
charge.
That's what I would think we need to do.
Okay. Is that a motion?
I make that into a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Hockaday's motion is that we pay, in this particular situation where we have already had the mammogram bus here, those that used it have already been sent a bill. Let's go ahead and pay those at 100%. And as quickly as I can get it done, I'm going to find out what the cost could potentially be at Titus Regional Medical Center and make sure that everyone is made aware of that. And that in the future, from this point on, if you continue to choose to use the mammogram bus, you'll continue to be subject to out-of-network charges as long as East Texas Medical Center is out of our network.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hinton.
Okay.
Go ahead.
If we can pay cash and get the East Texas Medical Center to come up here, pay cash and get a 50% reduction, it's going to be cheaper to use that.
No, I didn't say that was available through East Texas Medical Center. Now, can I inquire? Sure, I can always inquire. That was just something that we learned that Steve Capps himself investigated at TRMC, and they voluntarily told him, well, now, if you come up here and pay cash, it was like 30% of that normal.
It's like $115. I called to see.
$115 versus $300? $420. Okay, nearly a fourth.
You might also call to East Texas Medical Center and say you'd be willing to do it.
Because those will be the two logical places.
Most places, if you will pay the cash, you don't have to go through paperwork, insurance company.
Yeah, we'll certainly check. We'll certainly check.
So they might be willing to match it, so that they can.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Instead of us saying, now you have to do it here, I'd rather see if we can work out some type of agreement.
We're not saying you have to do it here. We're just saying they can still do it down there. They pay the difference between the out of
But we might
network.
work out an agreement with them where they will be willing to match the price, and you can go to either one, it's also kind of the same amount.
Ma'am.
Most often, those 50% discounts are off of their bill rates. You really need to be talking about this at 50% off the contracting rate. So there's a big distinction you need to clarify.
Well, in this case, we actually had a dollar figure stated. I'm just attributing a percentage to it. They didn't say, oh, we'll give you half price.
I mean, only 10% of the discounted price, there was 50% of the bill price. So there is a math problem. There may not be that savings that you're anticipating.
Well, I'll be sure whatever we commit to, we'll have it firmly in writing, but
One way of acquiring impressive discounts, the other way is the discounted price.
okay. All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor of going ahead and paying these at 100% for the mammogram bus charges that have already been incurred this year, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Item number 11, discuss and possibly take action on the janitorial position. I have not discussed this with any of you, and I wanted you to all have an opportunity to give me your thoughts on this. We have unfortunately lost our dear Betty Walker, and we have an opening here in a janitorial position. I have hired a temporary 29-hour per week individual that Ernie recommended, that Ernie had worked with, and she understands the situation, that there is no guarantees implied or otherwise that this position will turn into a long-term job. I simply want to ask you, what would you like for me to do here? Do you have any other thoughts on what we should do going forward now that we have lost 50% of our janitorial staff? Options here are continue this as a part-time position, continue it as a full-time position, and advertise and interview for another full-time person, or anything else that you might want to consider as far as getting our janitorial work done.
I would think that you probably need a full-time employee over there. That's, those officers are. That would be what I would think.
Well, as soon as you make it full-time, of course, you add $9,000 or $10,000 worth of insurance. The retirement is going to be applicable in either case, right? Isn't that what we learned, that they're going to be eligible? If this is a permanent part-time position, they're going to be eligible for retirement.
And if they work over 30 hours or more, you're going to have to give them benefits regardless.
Okay.
Have I ever consider hiring a contract janitorial service?
Anything's open for discussion.
Well, I mean, Ernie's, I wouldn't say replace Ernie, but we could do with a contract. I think we should contract our janitorial service out, would be a good way
Talked
to.
about it at one point in time, but some of these offices, they can't get into at night. They got to have them locked because those documents and things in there.
They can't get into our office.
They can't get into theirs, and probably the district clerk's office they can't get into.
Can't get into the
So,
sheriff's.
you know, can't get in the sheriff's office.
Well, I think the other thing, the really big problem is, we do well getting our but they might say they were good, but
They don't.
the other problem was that you needed somebody, especially with district courts going on, they can have lessons in their bathrooms, and they need somebody over there that can end up right then. Whereas a janitorial service is going to come generally
They can come
same
to-
time of day, or the night it's going to be night.
They can come in the daytime.
Well, I guess if you get something.
Janitor.
But they have to be available if somebody got sick in the bathroom, especially over the district court, you know, for other people. You need to be able to unstop the toilet, hot,
Well, they have janitorial services for that stuff. That'll do all of that. That's,
And also, Ernie does like all the maintenance, so if we got a janitorial, I mean, I don't know who you would hire.
I know when we looked at it before, it was gonna be a whole lot higher to a janitorial service to do it than to have an individual do it. There's a lot of, the cost is a lot.
look at the prices and stuff. I don't know how close Arnie is to retiring.
3 years or so,
Couple of years.
2 or 3 years, he said. That's what he told me. I don't, he may change his mind.
Personally, Judge, I would like for you to go out and advertise and hire a full-time person to replace Miss Betty. And go through the application just like anybody hiring any other full-time employee.
Okay.
Because I think you're going to need a person up here. You go over at district court and they're having court that day and somebody comes in there and they drop a bottle or something, glass goes everywhere, or plastic nowadays, I guess. Coke goes everywhere. Somebody's going to have to clean that up. There's times when other offices need certain things done. That's not on a regular schedule, and I just think it'd be appropriate because you'll be dealing with these people. You can do the interview and the hiring as far as I'm concerned.
When they're off on vacation, the other one takes care of that duty, so, you know, it's pretty handy to have someone permanent out there.
Okay, got a motion by Commissioner Fields that we hire a full-time janitor to replace Miss Betty.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hockaday. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
I'm opposed, just for different reasons. I'm not exactly sure what I had envisioned. I was going to attempt to try to figure out a way not to make this a fully benefited position, and I don't have a clear-cut answer right now. I hope that if and when Ernie retires, we can address this issue again, but that appears to pass. I will begin that process of interviewing and hiring. For those of you that have not met her, Rylva, R-Y-L-V-A, I had it misspelled when I gave you that last memo. I thought it was River. It's Rylva. Rylva Craddock is our temporary right now, if you happen to see her. And be sure I haven't skipped anything here. All right, item number 12, consider and possibly approve travel and seminars. I've got one request, and this is from Leonard Rockwell's office to send Kristen Little, the Assistant Elections Administrator, to the 2015 Midwinter Conference. There are actually two conferences going on down here in Kerrville during this period of time, and this would be January 5th through the 9th. $265 for one conference, $800 for the other. 5 days worth, 5.5 days of per diem to cover one travel day. $480.25 for hotel, motel. Taking a personal vehicle, traveling 842 miles to Kerrville comes up with $2,236.77. Kristen believes that most, if not all of this, will be covered through their, I don't know if you, through what? Chapter 19 fund. Is that realistic? We could expect all that to be covered by this? Okay. Okay. Well, good. That makes that a little more palatable. $2,236 paid with Chapter 19 funds. That's all I have.
Make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Fields. Second by Commissioner Riddle. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 13, approve oral and written reports.
Another one thing about going on here, if you look at precinct 2, they're showing negative cash balance. Of course, all this cash is inside one account, so we're not really overdrawn county, but it's a bank. But that one particular fund's overdrawn at this time, that's because the bank paid for the full cost of the project he's working on with the city, and they reimburse him.
How much are we expecting back on that?
I think we emailed the invoice with the lines.
Have you collected your road grant CSERS money? They were pretty quick in paying that back. Good.
All the money we build in the state.
but what you built, they turned it around quickly.
We still have 2 or 3 projects outstanding.
Make a motion to approve reports.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton to approve these reports.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 14, consider possibly approve the treasurer's report.
Make a motion to approve treasurer's report.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fields to approve. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 15, approve budget amendments.
Judge, we have 2. Number 3, for the current year, is to adjust the election building remodel cost with the numbers that y'all talked about, I think it was the last meeting. Only approved last meeting or anyway, 229,560 is the new number. I had 185 in there, so that's to adjust that.
Okay.
All the contingency monies inside the new year. That's number 3. And then numbers 72 from the prior year. This is transferring the $125,000 out of precinct 4 over to the right-of-way project that was approved back when y'all did the budget. Everybody else's money was brought forward in their funds. And there's still about $39,000 that will still be in there available for the commission.
Okay, those are the 2 budget amendments.
Make a motion to approve budget amendments.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 16, sign pay orders and approve payments.
Make a motion to pay our bills.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton,
Second.
second by Commissioner Fields. All in favor of signing pay orders and approving payment of bills, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Item number 17, closing comments. Just want to remind you, Betty Walker's funeral will be today at 2 p.m. at Bates Cooper. A date I'd like for you to mark on your calendar, Friday, December 19th from 10:30 to noon. Friday, December 19th, 10:30 to noon. We would like to have a little celebration here in the courtroom to honor any and all outgoing elected officials. That would include Commissioner Hockaday and Clerk Owens. So that'll be a nice little affair, and we've got some good food that will be there, so I'd like for y'all to all attend. That's all I have. Commissioner Fields?
One thing I have, Judge, I think we're looking at maybe checking on some prices for our truck that's just about gone, that's at the shop, and we can look at a used truck, or we can get look at a used one, and we can get a quote on a new one through the government program. But this is something that some work I need to do. Our truck is just about, well, it's gone. It's not going to be. But we can also check on a good used one and see what kind of price we're looking at that.
Did he run an ad for you soliciting
Yes.
something like that? I was thinking I saw
Yes,
something like
it has
that.
been run in the paper.
I gotta ask.
Anything else?
That's it.
Commissioner Riddle?
We don't have to have this, decide this, Commissioners Court, before we start advertising for bids on a truck? This truck, just happens to be what I did all my life, is fool with trucks. This truck's got very few miles on it. We use it average 1 day a week. You're talking about a truck, $50,000+. And the ad's in the paper, and it says we're gonna run it for 3 more days. I didn't know anything about it. I happened to read the ad that the county's gonna buy a truck. Then it said it's gonna be to haul general freight, meaning it don't have a sleeper cab. Well, general freight, I think it's a dump truck. It's got a lot of hydraulics on it. So I think if you want to bid on one, you should get one with all that. You're talking about thousands of dollars to put the hydraulics on a truck.
You're looking at me, I don't know anything about
Well,
this. I don't know about
but
buying a truck, used or new, for that matter.
I thought it should be discussed in the Commissioners Court. We try to be untransparent as we can. We should have discussed this before we brought it out. I mean, that
I'll
truck.
let Commissioner Fields answer that question. I didn't run an ad.
Yeah, well, I don't know who did, but it's got 3 more, they even got what days we're gonna open the bids. And I can tell you can bid on truck. If you're gonna buy a truck like this, a lot of companies, Warner, huge trucking companies, J.B. Hunt, at X amount of miles, 350,000 miles, they put them on the market at a good price. And you can buy one I'm not sure they'll bid on it, but you can sure go buy you one with some warranty on it. But that truck, as far as I know, and I would like to investigate the truck, last truck I overhauled, it had 1,123,000 miles on it, the engine on them. Those trucks run for 1 million miles. And
We just
the engine,
overhauled that, did we overhaul that truck?
we've overhauled
3
it,
years
they
ago
have
or something?
overhauled it, and it's nothing wrong with the engine.
How did Kennington, seemed like they overhauled it. I didn't know anything about the truck either, of course, I don't guess it.
I don't either, but I'd like to investigate the truck before I make a
Well,
decision to
that's
spend it.
fine.
We're talking about $100,000 of the county's money, and we secretly put it in the paper. I just happened to read it.
Nobody secretly put it in paper.
Well, hell, you got on there the day you're gonna open bids.
Well, you can open it, accept it, or deny.
Well, I think you're out of order by putting it in the paper until it's discussed by the Commissioners Court.
Anything else?
That's it.
Commissioner,
I have nothing, Judge.
Commissioner Hockaday.
I don't guess it.
All right, y'all about to wear thin. Christie.
I just want to remind everybody real quick that next week our outside will be here, but they're going to be set up in Gilbert's office.
Northwest corner downstairs, okay?
Downstairs, so they'll be downstairs in a different spot. They're starting.
They'll be here starting when, Monday? Okay. How long will they be here? A couple of weeks? Just 1 week? Okay. All right, thank you for everyone's patience. A lot of discussion on several subjects, and we still got some answers to get. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Hinton, second by Commissioner Hockaday. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you.